On today's wrestling news, Tony Khan shoots on the WWE, Daniel Bryan to wrestle in New Japan, Paul Heyman teases a Brock Lesnar return, Paul Wight wants to get back in the ring, and the real reason that Big E and Aleister Black were off SmackDown. Are you ready? Are you ready for the news time? Yes, my name is Phil Chambers, and again, I'm not joined by anyone because I'm on my own today. But before we get into it, make sure you like the video, comment down below what you think of all of today's news stories, subscribe to the channel. All of it really does help. But yeah, first up, we have big news coming out of Tony Khan. So ahead of Dynamite last night, he put up a video on AEW's social media where he just completely shot on WWE and specifically Nick Khan and their talks with New Japan. He mentioned that, like he read in The Observer, that they've been in talks with New Japan for 2 months, and then he shot on them saying, I've done more in the last 2 weeks than you have done in 2 months, listing all these things that he's done with New Japan and like the North American title and having people over and things like that. And he ended it all by saying, I think there's only room for one Khan in the wrestling business, Nick, and it's me. It's Tony Khan. It's not some con man from Connecticut. So yeah, Tony Khan shooting hard on the WWE / New Japan talks. And yeah, just putting it out there that he's done way more than they have and probably will ever do. It's really good fun, this. I highly suggest you go and check it out on social media if you haven't already seen it. But speaking of those New Japan and WWE talks, there's reports coming out saying that a big topic of conversation within these talks is the fact that Daniel Bryan wants to wrestle in New Japan. So it was reported yesterday, obviously, that Nick Khan in WWE had reached out to New Japan for WWE to become the exclusive North American partner for New Japan Pro Wrestling. PW Insider has added to this today, saying that the sort of main crux of the talks is to do with Daniel Bryan wanting to work some New Japan dates, and I guess that tying into Daniel Bryan's current ongoing talks with WWE about his contract status there. So it seems like Daniel Bryan wants to return to WWE, but with a huge caveat of being able to do some New Japan dates at the same time, and that's kind of what kicked off all of this. There is bound to be more news coming out about this at some point, but very exciting to find out that Daniel Bryan is the biggest sort of driving force behind this possible cooperation, which I've got to say, I mean, we've been burnt before with things like this. It'll probably never happen, but if WWE are desperate enough to have Daniel Bryan back and not let him go anywhere else, I guess that's one of the big things that could actually drive this home and make this happen. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, but exciting times nonetheless. So yeah, moving over, speaking of other people returning to WWE, Paul Heyman has been teasing a possible return for Brock Lesnar. He's been talking to Sports Talk 970, and I've just got a quote from the interview that he gave over there. He said maybe he has been waiting for the live events, and maybe he'll choose Houston to make that return. Or maybe not, because Brock Lesnar is going to do whatever Brock Lesnar wants to do. Now, Houston is the first date of the big 25-date live return tour for WWE, so it's an obvious choice to get big stars on that and make it as big a show as possible. The obvious first choice for a match for Lesnar would likely tie into the whole Roman Reigns situation, you have to agree. However, you've got to put this with a pinch of Paul Heyman, because he does like to rile up the fans, he likes to work people, he likes to troll, and he likes to keep people's name in the conversation even if there is absolutely no talks of them coming back. So we will have to wait and see with this. It'd be very exciting to see that situation, because we've done Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar before, not been amazing, but right now with this Roman Reigns character at the level that he is at, tying that in with the whole storyline behind Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar, that could be absolutely spectacular, and I would be very up for that. But yeah, like I say, we'll have to wait and see on that part. There is also a few reports that Roman Reigns' SummerSlam opponent is going to be John Cena, so not sure how that would tie into the whole Brock Lesnar situation. Maybe, I doubt they'd do Brock Lesnar as quickly as Money in the Bank. So yeah, a lot up in the air about this, but yeah, like I say, take this with a pinch of Paul Heyman, because he does like to work people. But speaking of other people possibly returning to the ring, Paul Wight is saying that he has a huge itch to return to the ring in AEW. He was talking to Busted Open Radio and sort of credited it all to his time working as commentator on AEW Dark Elevation. And I've got a quote from it. He just says, "Man, I need to dump myself in a vat of cortisone. I've got the itch so bad, it's ridiculous." He goes on to say that for so many years he was in WWE and he was just a gear in the cog of the machine up there, but when he came to AEW, like a lot of these people he didn't know, like some of them he'd never heard of before, he didn't understand their styles, didn't understand any of it. So one of the luckiest and smartest moves I think I did was to be able to be part of AEW Dark Elevation, because he really got to see the talent, understand the talent, and it made him much more comfortable where now he really goes, where he really knows how he would settle in, how he would get over, how he would help the other talent, how he would pull ratings in, and how he could help AEW grow. I think it's the first time in his entire career where everything is lined up, the knowledge is there, the health is there, the desire is there, and the opportunity is there, so he's so excited to see what's going to happen. It's the first time in God knows how many years where it's all a definitive fact. It's a really good interview. He also goes on to say how people like John Silver and Abaddon and Jade Cargill especially has really, really impressed him. And then he lists a bunch of people that he is very excited to work with at some point in the future, talking about Lance Archer, how he could do great things with Kenny Omega. I mean, who couldn't do great things with Kenny Omega? I could probably do great things with Kenny Omega. Talking about Jericho and Hangman Adam Page. And then he also mentions Billy's kids in Austin and Colton Gunn, just so he could get in the ring with them and chop the ever-loving S out of them, just because, you know, why not? So yeah, it would be good to see Paul Wight back in the ring with AEW. He's obviously excited about wrestling again and sort of new challenges and new opportunities, new people to wrestle. So hopefully he gets that opportunity in AEW and he can do some really good stuff. But finally, on today's news, the real reason that Big E and Aleister Black weren't on SmackDown. Now, apparently they were both backstage for the show, but they were not used on the show last night. And PW Insider is saying that this is because there was a creative decision made to let the new feud hang for a week or so as not to rush the storyline, which is kind of being described as a very rare situation where WWE Creative is actually letting things breathe for once and letting it develop at its own pace and not rushing into things. So hopefully this means good things for Aleister Black and his push going forwards. I've been a little bit worried about what might happen this time around. He's not had the greatest track record on the main roster in terms of his pushes and things like that, but hopefully this new character puts a new life into his character and comes out with a bit of a renewed vigor and can do some really good stuff. And hopefully this means if creative are directly behind it and giving it time to breathe and actually letting it run at its own pace, this might actually end up in some really good things for Aleister Black. So yeah, that is today's news. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you head on over to Twitter and give me a follow at FillMyChambers, same on Instagram. You can follow all of us at WhatCulture WWE. Subscribe to the channel, like I say, like the video, comment down below what you think of all of today's stories, especially matchups you might want Daniel Bryan to have in New Japan. Exciting times. But yeah, thank you very, very much for watching, and yeah, most importantly, have yourselves a bloody good day. Goodbye.